Virginia gun owners here again. So I know tomorrow is election day. It's the big one. I know a lot of people have went ahead and voted early. That's all fine and dandy. I'm gonna vote in person, come hell or high water. And I know I've seen an uptick on Google. Is can I change my vote? Well, you know what? You should have waited until the very last minute, because presidential elections, some candidates can start saying some real stupid shit before it's done and over with. And now you're voting. And if you've changed your mind, your vote's already locked in. You can't do anything about it. You can't. And I wanted to speak out to some maybe undecided voters, or even Biden voters that are kind of on the fence about it because of all the crazy shit that he said lately. And I know both candidates aren't, the most mature people in the world, but I can't say anything. I'm not a multimillionaire that, runs a bunch of properties and stuff like that. That's like these people that have no jobs and they get on here and give out financial advice to a multimillionaire. Either way, I'm getting off topic. What I want to talk about is, if you're still planning on voting for Biden, I want you to know something. If you are a gun owner, especially in the realm of semi-automatic, or as he likes to say, assault weapons or military-style rifles of war with 100-round clips, whatever the fuck that means, I want to talk about his tax bill. And I've plugged some numbers, and I want to put it into perspective for you. So his tax bill, I've got it on a clipboard here, and I've wrote it down. You can go to his website under /gun safety, or you can just go to Antifa.com, as funny as that is. You can look at all the information on there. That's directly where I've got this from, and I've just plugged in some numbers to show, for example, what you're going to be paying out the ass for just for owning some semi-automatic rifles, sporting rifles. So he wants to do a $200 tax stamp for each rifle. So let's plug in the number 5. You have 5 semi-automatic rifles. So you've got a couple of AKs, an AR, some other stuff like that. Maybe a Ruger 1022, which is a semi-automatic rifle. Okay, so like one of these little Ruger 1022s, 22 long rifle that you can stick a magazine in that holds 30 rounds, is considered an assault weapon. So let's say you've got one of those that, maybe you got for a Christmas present, or you just bought just because you wanted to go plinking. That's another $200 tax stamp. So we'll just say five rifles altogether. So that would equal $1,000, because 5 times $200 tax stamp for each one is $1,000. Okay, another one is magazines. Let's just say in total with 5, which would be about 4 magazines apiece, which is a very sensible number for any weapon or collection of weapons. We'll say you have 20 magazines. So he wants a $200 tax stamp for that as well, for each magazine. That's $4,000. So 1,000 plus 4,000 is 5,000. So let's say you make a $35,000 salary a year. A lot of people do. That's like $15, $16, $17 an hour, something like that. That's 7% of your salary taxed just on this. That's not counting all your other taxes that you're paying out the ass for right now. So let's say you don't want to pay this, and to hell with him. That is, if he gets in office. And I really hope he doesn't. So you've got two options under his legislation, and that's to sell them to the federal government through voluntary buyback, or register them under the National Firearms Act, the NFA, which should have been abolished a long time ago. I'll just say this. I'm not selling any of my firearms to the federal government, and it's definitely not a buyback, because they never sold it to me in the first place. I had to do a shitload of background checks and stuff like that to make sure I was mentally competent enough to own a firearm. That should be enough. Failure to comply can result in a felony of 10 years in federal prison. So with MS-13 gang members, Bloods, Crips, serial killers, murderers, all this shit, you're in there just because Johnny wanted an AR-15, okay? Or a $10,000 fine. So on top of that, 7% of the shit tax that you would be getting. You would also be a felon, go to jail, federal prison, sorry, for 10 years, and or have to pay a $10,000 fine. You know why? Just for owning one of these rifles that have been completely legal since 1994, before all that crazy shit happened. Just for owning some of those. I'm not going to put any of my firearms in the video because I don't want anybody taking inventory on what I got, because it's none of their fucking business. Sorry for the language, but I'm really worked up about this. He also wants to end the online sale of firearms, ammunition, gun parts, etc. So that's going to put any of these online retailers out of business. So Brownell, Sportsman's Guide, Arms List, Gun Broker, Big Daddy Unlimited. Big Daddy Unlimited is great. It's going to put them out of business. They're going to be able to sell like camping equipment and knives on there. That's pretty much it, and that's not going to pay the bills. I'm going to assume that online gun retailer, 99.99% of their revenue is going to be through firearms and firearm accessories. Boy, I tell you what. I just want to say this before you go out and vote. Even if it's not your stance on if your stance is gun control, by all means, you vote the way you want to vote. But just remember, an armed society is a free society. I want to know what happens if we completely do away with weapons, which would eventually happen because it's death by a thousand cuts. It's not going to stop at the assault rifles or anything like that. They're going to keep pushing until we're out here with sticks and rocks. Oh yeah, one more idiotic thing that Joe Biden wants to do is smart guns. He wants to implement, it's like biometric scanners on every gun. So it's kind of like the Fifth Element or something. You put your finger on it and it'll fire through like some kind of iPhone fingerprint scanner, some stupid shit. That's going to cost a lot of extra money. It's a shit show. I don't know anything else to tell you. But like I said, there's a lot more people on YouTube that know what they're doing. They've detailed. I'm just trying to reach out to maybe, even if it's just one person that's undecided. Maybe you just don't like Trump. That's fine. There's a third option. If you don't like Trump and you don't want to vote for Joe Biden because you know he's a fucking crook, there's always that third option. And it's going to be a hell of a lot better than what Biden has to bring to the table, which is absolutely nothing. Which everything's going to be made in China. There's going to be no jobs, especially in the oil and fracking industry. I could save that for another video. Right now I'm talking about firearms and what could affect the middle-class working citizen the most. 7% of your salary taxed. If you have a $35,000 average salary, 7% of that's taking food out of your family's mouths, just because he thinks he doesn't like some rifles. Okay, and how many? I don't understand it. So I'm not telling you who to vote for, but the option should be clear. You know what? Arms change. They change every day. They were changing back then when they signed the Declaration of Independence. But you know what? Rights don't. And I think some of our politicians have forgotten about that. And they're going to keep pushing until they screw up big time. And I think that time's coming soon. So I want everybody to stay prepared. Get out and vote. Go personally and vote, because there's too many fraudulent mail-in votes being thrown in the trash. Your vote, maybe you mailed it in. Guess what? It's probably in a dumpster, because there's clear evidence that that's happened. So your vote to Trump, Biden, whoever it is, more than likely Trump, is in a dumpster. That's all there is to it. Vote in person.